What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Instagram Live, and we're here this afternoon ready to share more Jimmy rants. If you haven't noticed lately, I've been doing a lot more Instagram Lives, and there's a good reason for that. I am committed to doing regular periods here on Instagram Live because I want to share more content. I feel people are highly confused now more than ever before about what to believe about things as it relates to the ketogenic diet specifically. So I've been talking about some of the hot topics and things that people are talking about. So I want to type in today's topic that we're going to talk about that I think you're going to love. You're going to love them all, but you're really going to love this one. So let me type it in here real quick, and I'll be right with you guys. Welcome in. Why don't you go ahead and tell us where you're from while I am typing this in, and we will get going here in just a minute. And it's going to be a really good show today, you guys, so I appreciate you being here. I noticed this morning I was trying to do this before I came on, or while I was on, and I actually left a word off because I was trying to do it so quickly. So I'm taking my time to make sure I get it in there. And I did. I just left a word out. So let's go ahead and pop that in there. Okay. So this is what we're going to talk about here today. I'm going to post it and pin it and then talk about it. So looks like we've got all kinds of people from Virginia and Tampa, Florida, Chesapeake, Virginia, Huntington Beach, California, Connecticut, San Jose. Awesome. So yes, so what we want to talk about in this Jimmy Rants episode is keto safe to do long term? And I have heard this one over and over again as a criticism of a ketogenic diet for many years. And it's all predicated on the fact that we don't have long-term studies that basically confirm the veracity of going on a ketogenic diet for more than a year. And so because of that, all the so-called health experts like to say, well, we don't know what the long-term implications of a ketogenic diet are, therefore, nobody should be doing it. So that doesn't make any sense to me at all. I don't think it has anything at all to do with what we have research on. I think it has everything to do with what are people actually seeing that works for them to give them results in their health markers and in their weight and in all kinds of subjective measures of health. Those are the things that we should be looking at. But no, they tend to look at, do we have studies? And so I'm sure you have people come to you that say, well, I would do that ketogenic diet, but I hear that it's not safe to do over the long term because all these so-called health experts put that out there. But here's what they never tell you. We also don't have long-term studies on the low-fat diet. Did you know that? There has never been a randomized control clinical trial for years upon years that follow people that ate a low-fat, high, healthy whole grains diet, exercise at the gym type of protocol that is the recommended diet for everybody to do, the recommended lifestyle. None of that has ever passed this so-called we need the studies muster. And yet they put that onus on a low-carb, high-fat ketogenic diet that, well, we can't be telling people to go on that diet until we have fully vetted it out in the research. It's never been vetted out. Low-fat, high-carb has never been vetted out either. So we got to get past this silly notion that because long-term research has not taken place on a ketogenic diet, that therefore nobody should go on a ketogenic diet. So then it becomes, is keto safe to do in the long term? What are the people who have done this for many, many years? I'm one of them. Many of you watching this right now, you're one of them. What do you do with the people that have done well in their health, that were in a bad place before and are now in a really good place in their health? What do we do with those people? Does their anecdotal data that they're still doing well, having eaten a low-carb, high-fat ketogenic diet, is it negated? Does it just not exist because it's anecdotal and that it's not within a research setting? Now here's the thing. There's no motivation for anybody to conduct these research studies over the long term of someone on a ketogenic diet. And here's the other thing, and Gary Taubes has articulated this many, many times in his work. Gary has talked about how it would be extremely expensive to do a metabolic ward study of a couple of years where you would put people on a ketogenic diet in a metabolic ward and would monitor them and do all the things that it would take. It would be at least $100 million to do a study like that, at least. And then you would have to get study participants that would willingly put themselves in a metabolic ward and be locked up for 2 years away from their family. So the reality of that situation is people aren't going to go through that. But if you wanted to test the diet, that's what you would have to do in a randomized controlled clinical way. But what has happened is, because nobody has the will, the money, or the time to go through all of that randomized controlled clinical trial process, we're relying on observational studies, on epidemiological studies, on mouse studies to tell us whether or not a low-carb diet that produces ketones and makes you ketogenic, fat-adapted, is safe to do in the long term. And so it's not relevant. Those studies do not really tell you the whole story. So then we come back to, what do you do in the absence of data with all the people who have done well eating this way over the long term? And I think that's where people like myself and others that have been doing this for a long time, we articulate what happens in our bodies. I've been very open about all kinds of things that happen and has happened to me in my health, both good and bad. I've talked very openly about how I still have belly fat and how I still have a little bit higher insulin levels. But let's put it this way. Had I not done keto, how high would the insulin be? How big would I be? And would I be standing here or sitting here in front of you today? I truly believe with my heart of hearts, had I not gone keto, I would be 6 feet under just like my brother. And that sounds morbid to say, but I truly believe that keto saved my life. And I was able to get health back because I went keto and because I have committed myself to eating mostly real whole foods that nourish my body, that keep my blood sugar levels down, that keep my inflammation levels down and blood pressure down and all the key health markers that matter. Now, a lot of these same experts that want the research, they always say, well, look what happens to your cholesterol when you go on a ketogenic diet. It invariably goes up. Not in everybody, but it does go up in a good number of the population. And we've talked about the cholesterol numbers and which ones matter the most, which ones don't matter so much. It's the triglyceride HDL ratio, but everybody still focuses on cholesterol, total cholesterol, and LDL cholesterol. And so in light of that, because they can't refute that people are doing well over the long term with it, they have to bring up these little non sequiturs of the cholesterol, for example. Or another non sequitur is, well, you haven't been able to lose all of your weight, so therefore something's wrong with that diet. Never mind, something could be wrong with the individual metabolically, or something that would make it more challenging for them. So I think we can answer pretty safely, all pun intended, that keto is safe to do long term, so long as you're eating mostly real whole foods and that you're eating adequate calories, not under eating, so long as you're getting therapeutic effects from it, so you're seeing your blood sugar levels fall, you're seeing your A1C fall, you're seeing key inflammation markers like HSCRP and homocysteine fall, you're seeing all of these good things happen in your body, and you see levels of blood ketones, breath ketones, however you measure your ketones, going up at least to a level that would be therapeutic, and you feel good, and you're not hungry, and you're able to fight off the cravings, and you have good mental health, and you got stabilized mood. These are all clear telltale signs to me that keto is pretty darn safe to do, and I would even go beyond the word safe. I would say keto is pretty darn optimal to do for most people. Is it the right diet for everyone? That's a question you're going to have to ask yourself, whether it's right for you. Tinker and test and figure it out and do it. But do it well. Definitely follow a plan of some sort. Read a book like mine, like Keto Clarity, and see how to do it. And if you give it an honest go for 30 to 60 days and you don't see results, fine, move on to something else. But that doesn't mean that keto wasn't good for some people. And so I see this notion out there again and again. We talk about it on my Thursday podcast called Keto Talk with Jimmy Moore and Dr. Will Cole. We talk about headlines, and then a lot of those headlines, they question the long-term veracity of a ketogenic diet. And I was even looking up, right before I came on this Instagram Live, I was looking up on Harvard Public School of Health kind of what they believe about a ketogenic diet. And they're basically saying the exact same thing. We don't have enough long-term studies, so therefore it's invalid. And I think that's unfair to this way of eating. And it also is a slap in the face to all of us that have seen good results. Just because the researchers have a bias against it, and just because they don't want to really examine it and give it a fair shake, does not mean that their conclusion that it's not safe to do in the long term is a valid one. All right, let's see what you guys have to say. I believe it is a lifetime way of eating for us. Kimberly, I agree with you. I can't imagine eating any other way. Sean Baker, long term equals religious beliefs. Go into that a little more, Sean, because I want to hear quite a bit of what you have to say on this issue. If you guys don't know Sean, he's big into the carnivore diet, and I think what I hear you saying, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but a long term in the eyes of a lot of researchers, they believe that you're just a zealot. So, Sean, I'm sure you're going to be eating ribeye steaks cooked on a grill for many years to come, because that carnivore diet has worked very well for you, and they're viewing you in that way. But I'm anxious to hear extra thoughts. Kat says, is it safe to do non-keto long-term? Proven far not for everyone. Yeah, exactly. That is such a great point, Kat, and thank you for bringing that out. Is it safe to do non-keto long-term? And we know the effects of like the standard American diet. Look at all the statistics of type 2 diabetes. Look at all the statistics of morbid obesity. Look at all the statistics related to heart disease and cancer and Alzheimer's. I could go right down the list of all the chronic diseases that we deal with in this day and age. That's a direct result of that non-keto diet over the long term. So great point there. Blaine Eats Bacon says, I love keto. It's amazing how it makes you feel so quick. Many long-term positives. And see, that's the thing, Blaine. We get these positives, but they want to pretend like we don't exist. I don't get that. It would seem to me, especially in the medical community, it would seem to me that they, more than anybody, would be very interested in health outcomes being positive for their patient population. The last time I checked, the Hippocratic Oath says first do no harm, and so if the patient is exhibiting signs of vitality and health, and yet we're discouraging them from the very diet and lifestyle choices that gave them that vitality and health, does that make any sense at all? 10,000 years ago, extensive randomized controlled trials testing was done before we adopted grain-based diet. Exactly. Sean, you're exactly right. Unfortunately, those were not published in the Journal of Caveman Times, unfortunately, and so today's researchers and today's so-called health experts have they give no credence to that. But you're right, exactly. I refuse to gain back the 75 pounds I've lost and the 50 I plan to lose ever. I refuse to eat my old ways, so if keto is bad, I will be bad for a lifetime. And Kimberly, you're not alone, and I would think that a lot of people that have seen benefits, whether it's weight loss or whether it's reduced glucose in their blood, whether it's improved mood. I'll tell you guys, I used to be kind of an angry jerk at times. I know, hard to believe. I'm a super nice guy now, and I try to be in my everyday life. But I used to be an angry person, and I didn't understand why I felt that way so often. And I realized once I went low carb, high fat, I was missing the fat in my diet, and it was especially true when I was eating low fat diets. I was so miserable and angry, and everybody around me knew it. And so for that reason alone, just the mood stabilization and being able to be happy again, I find that to be a huge reason why I'll keep doing keto. Best way to see if it works in research is to do it long term. It will not disappoint. There's certainly no downside in trying it and doing it as long as you're seeing these results that we've been talking about here. Griff Sam 88 says there's a reason why keto has so much traction in the popular culture, because it works. And you're right, Griff Sam, and thank you for chiming in. Yeah, exactly. I wrote a book about this back in 2014, right at the height of the paleo movement. And I remember I was a part of the paleo community at the time, and there were a lot of people in the paleo world that hated that I wrote Keto Clarity. But it was the very first book that used the word keto in the title, and I hope that it helped to instigate a lot of what we're seeing now in the mainstream, the popularity happening with keto. But yeah, people are gravitating to it because it's very attractive to them. And if something's attractive to them and people then see results after trying it, I don't see why there's any downside and why anyone would be poo-pooing on this unless you're just you hate meat or you hate success. I don't know. Mosh Keto says health is so much more than a scale number. Preach. Yeah, I talked about that in my Jimmy rants from this morning about how you measure success, and it's so much more than your weight. So definitely go check that out if you missed it. All those good things are happening. Too good to be true, they think. Some answers are much more simple than we think. Yes, and Kat, that's another great point. Sometimes people hear that all these great things are happening for people that go on a ketogenic diet, and so they're like, that sounds like snake oil. It can't possibly do all those things you're saying, and yet for a lot of people it does, and so that's a good thing. Let's see. So we're talking about, is keto safe to do long term, you guys, and so that's the subject of this Jimmy Rants. Thanks for being here. Welcome in, welcome in. The best predictor of future health is current health. Beyond that is merely speculation. What wise words that is, Sean. And Sean, this is why I love that you follow my work, and I love following you guys. Go follow Sean Baker 1967 here on Instagram. He talks at great length philosophically about these kinds of things as well. And he's exactly right. You can't be healthy in the future if you're not healthy now. So pursuing health now will ensure that you'll have long-term health in the future. Good point. Keto Meemaw says many genetic medo disorders mitochondrial disorders respond fantastically to keto. I'm living proof and will not stop. And that's a key point too, because keto and ketogenic, they always get pegged with the word diet. People tend to only view them as a weight loss means. But as you're pointing out here, the mitochondrial improvements that happen are a big reason why a lot of people do keto. Louisa Gregory says keto equals real food. Absolutely. So if you're not eating real food in your ketogenic diet, and you're eating a lot of still eating processed foods, maybe you don't see safety with your keto over the long term. But if you try to embrace real whole foods as much as possible and make them a part of your ketogenic lifestyle, then you will have that health and vitality that you want over the long term. All right, guys, that is it for this Jimmy Rants. If you missed my announcement, we are now posting all of these Instagram live videos that I'm doing onto YouTube. And so go to jimmyrants.com and you can actually go straight to all of the rants. We started doing this a few days ago, and I am trying to do one of these in the morning, somewhere around like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, one of these in the afternoon, somewhere around 4 to 5, and this is Eastern Standard Time that I'm talking about with the times. And then we're going to post those on YouTube, and we're working behind the scenes on a big project where we'll also make a podcast out of some of the highlights of what we talk about here. It's going to be a really cool project, you guys, but go check out jimmyrants.com. For right now, it redirects you to the YouTube page if you want to check out some of the other ones. Post on there. I'm getting a lot of great feedback from the followers there who are seeing that don't even know I have an Instagram Live. So here we are. And if you're watching this on YouTube right now, hi. Go follow me at Living Low Carb Man on Instagram and check out my lives. George says research of low carb, high fat, keto, insulin, actual scientific research makes sense. It's why I chose keto and continue learning. George, thank you for that. Yes, there is some great research. Definitely look at what Dr. Sarah Hallberg is doing right now. Her research is out of Indiana. Look at what Dr. Dominique D'Agostino is doing out of Tampa, Florida. There's some really good researchers out there looking at this ketogenic diet thing. And it's going to show some really good veracity over the long term if we start to believe it. So thank you, guys. I'm out of here. We'll see you next time on Jimmy Rants. Bye.